Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new video. You got Matt here from Nerd Enthusiast. Today's video was voted over on Patreon, patreon.com/nerdenthusiast. You guys can go there and vote on topics, get exclusive videos, stuff like that. Shout out to Juan for supporting us over there this month. Thank you, Juan, for all of your support. The topic that was voted on this month was, what is my favorite Nintendo console? This video is not scripted. I don't have anything in front of me. My computer is closed. I got no distractions. Only thing I did for prep work was I grabbed a couple things from my collection to kind of go over with you today. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a personal story why I love the Nintendo 64. There's many reasons why I love the NES. I do enjoy the Super Nintendo quite a bit. I'm more fond for the NES than the Super Nintendo, but I really love the Nintendo 64. So this system came out on September 26th, 1996. A little boy, Matt, would have been 12 years old at the time that this came out. Now, this console, there was a few times in my life where I didn't think I was going to keep playing video games. This, I think, was the first time where I was like, I'm not even interested in playing video games anymore. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm over it. Walked into a department store. It's probably like a Caldor, if you guys remember those. Or like, I think it was a Sears, actually. But it could have been somewhere else. I'm pretty sure it was a Sears. And they had a Nintendo 64 on display for people to play. This was like probably like around the time it came out or like right before it launched. I didn't have a pre-order or anything. I grabbed this insane looking thing, this controller. Sorry, the cables are all wrapped up. In gray, not in blue. It was the original gray color with the black system. And they had Super Mario 64 on there. That's what made me want an N64. I never played a game in 3D like that before. I played 2D games. NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Like that was what I played. So playing Super Mario 64 it blew my mind, to say the least. So after I played the demo of Super Mario 64, I don't even know if it was like the first level or if it was a timed demo. I have no idea. I don't remember. But it didn't matter. I played like the first area and I was like completely blown away that this thing was in 3D. I couldn't believe that this was actually a video game. That started my mission, like, oh my god, I have to get a Nintendo 64. So I went literally from one day, I don't really care about games anymore, I'm good, I'm over them, to I have to get a Nintendo 64 as fast as I possibly can. What I started to do was, I didn't have a pre-order, but this was kind of, the internet was probably a thing in 1996, but people weren't really using it the same way that they use it today. I had a phone book, which God, I feel old. For all of you young kids, a phone book had a list of phone numbers in it that you would look up to call places instead of the internet. And I wrote down every local place that I knew of that carried video games. That would have carried a Nintendo 64. And every day, I got home from school, and I was calling them to find out who had a Nintendo 64, when they had it, could they hold it for me. And eventually, I found a KB Toys, had the console in stock. I said I'd be down there right away, just hold it for me. I'm on my way. And luckily, my mom was really cool at the time. She was like, yeah, I know I'll get this for you as a Christmas present, but you can't have it till Christmas. And I was like, I don't care. Like, just let's get the 64 and I'll wait till Christmas. That's totally fine. And that's basically what happened. I waited till Christmas. I got Super Mario 64 and a Nintendo 64. And man, so many games blew my mind on that console. Like, just blew my mind. And I was a very diverse gamer at that time. Not that I'm not now, but I was into like a lot of sports games and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to show you in a second. And then they had interesting accessories and things like that, right? So let's start out with a couple of accessories. Memory pack, right? This is the one memory pack that you want to have. This is the one made by Nintendo. Man, did I have 2 or 3 third-party cards that totally erase data. This is my first experience with that. This is around the same time as PS1, which I'm sure you guys who've had PS1s know. They were notorious for deleting your data if you didn't buy the official Sony card. Shit, man. I learned early on, I personally, I almost never, I won't say I never, but I almost never buy third-party accessories with rare exceptions. Then came out a Rumble pack, which actually included, like, you know, shaking, and PlayStation eventually came out with a DualShock controller, of course. But this thing, you just popped into any of the existing controllers. It popped in right into the bottom there. You plug that sucker right in, and it would add rumble to your games, which actually changed the game quite a bit. This is very common now. Like, people won't even think twice about this, but this was awesome at the time that it came out. It came out around the same time that Star Fox 64 released, which is one of the best Nintendo 64 games. Probably the best Star Fox game, in my opinion. I think it's better than the Super Nintendo version for sure. I mean, this game was awesome. I don't even know how many times I played this game single player. I beat the game multiple times. I played it in multiplayer multiple times. Man, what a game. And it came with a Rumble pack, too. I mentioned earlier that I was a pretty diverse gamer, so I'm going to go through a couple of those right now. One interesting thing was Nintendo was known for being very family-friendly, and they released this through Rare, which is Conger's Bad Fur Day. This game is awesome. It's a collect-a-thon kind of game. The main character is a little squirrel that, like, curses. He's drunk when you start out the game. It is absolutely awesome. I couldn't believe that this came out on the Nintendo 64. I think this was later in the life cycle, if I remember correctly. But, man, what an interesting game. I was even into sports games at this time, like I mentioned. I used to play a sports game here or there, but it's pretty rare nowadays. But back then, I was playing stuff like Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball. What an awesome baseball game, man. I played the hell out of this when this came out. First-person shooters were a thing now. Like, this was after Doom, obviously. They made Doom 64, which I don't have in my collection, but it was a solid version of Doom. It's completely different from regular Doom, but Doom 64 was great. Perfect Dark. Phenomenal first-person shooter, again from Rare. That's going to be a theme here. I liked a lot of Rare's games during this period of time, which pretty much everybody did. Was playing golf games. We got Mario Golf. Awesome golf game. Loved every minute of it. You know, it had the 3-click the 3-click swing system in place. Fighting games were on the agenda still. I was playing Mortal Kombat 4. Now, to be truthful, this was not a great Mortal Kombat game. It was okay. Kind of like 3. You know, 2 for me was like the pinnacle of Mortal Kombat. 2 was amazing. And newer games now that came out, like, you know, Mortal Kombat 9, or it's just titled Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat X and XL. Those are all great Mortal Kombat games. But at this time, they were like, meh. But I was still playing fighting games back then. I was even playing football games. I got Madden Football 64. I have about 3 different football games for the Nintendo 64, which is kind of surprising because I wasn't like, my dad liked football a lot, which is the reason I watched football at all. But I think I just liked sports games a lot. Then that was something I was into. I didn't play football like in a league, but I played like street football all the time. 1080 snowboarding, what an era. What an era for snowboarding games. My God. N64 had 1080. There was multiple snowboarding games out on PS1. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but I played those as well. I please make a good snowboarding game again. I want EA Big to come back. I want SSX Tricky 2. That's what I want. Give us Tricky 2, or Nintendo, bring back 1080. Make it new. That would be friggin' awesome. I was playing soccer games. FIFA 98, have international sports soccer something. It's like ISS Championship or something. I think it's what it's called. But it was the Konami version of the soccer game, which eventually became PES in the United States. It was always PES in Japan and other countries as well. But FIFA was great back then. FIFA beat the crap out of that until a little bit later on. And then PES took over, and now FIFA is like kind of king again. I was playing a lot of arcade racing games. This is really when I was big into racing games. Not that I don't play racing games now, but San Francisco Rush was awesome. Rush 2 was great. I have that as well. Awesome arcade-style racing games. If you guys know me, I'm not a big fan of simulation racing games. Like, I'm not crazy about Gran Turismo. Forza Motorsport, I'm not that crazy about. Horizon, I'd be more interested in. So anything with like arcade style, Burnout really appeals a lot to me. I love Burnout games. Cruisin' USA is another arcade style racing game, which I had a lot of fun playing, especially in the arcades. I know I got the 64 version here, but man, did I play Cruisin' USA. I still do. Whenever I see it in an arcade, I will pop on some Cruisin' USA. I was into wrestling at that time, and thankfully for me, they made awesome wrestling games like WCW versus NWO World Tour and Revenge. Played the hell out of these games. I don't know how many hours I put into these games. So much fun. I don't think they make wrestling games quite like this today, which is a shame. A lot of people bitch and complain about the controller today. I'm used to that controller. You can get used to that controller. I get it. It's not the most comfortable controller to use after the past few decades of, playing games. But it's not impossible. People act like this controller is completely foreign to them. Like, dude, just give it time. Just play a couple games with it, man. You'll get used to it. I don't think it's great. I think it's fine. It's good enough. Definitely not better than GameCube. GameCube had an awesome controller. But the people who really, really complained about N64 controller, it's like, come on, man. Just get over it. It's fine. But that being said, the reason I love the system is because of the games. So the next 5 games I'm going to show you are probably my 5 favorite games in the system. I can't think of anything better than these 5 games. So this is really, really why I love the Nintendo 64. First up, you got Banjo Kazooie. Now, I received a video in the mail, because they were still doing that back then, from Nintendo. Nintendo would send out these promotional videos that would show off games. And I think I actually had one for Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball also. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, I was a total sucker. Every time they sent me one of those videos, I think I bought the game that they sent the video for. Anyway, that was the first time I saw Banjo Kazooie, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? This looks awesome. I cannot wait to play this game. And I was not sad about purchasing Banjo Kazooie at all. I had a great time with it. Yeah, people give shit about collectathon games. It was a different time, man. I can't explain that to you guys any other way. Collectathon games, Donkey Kong 64 was a whole different time. Yeah, it's repetitive, but I had so much fun playing Banjo. I had a lot of fun playing Donkey Kong 64 too. I think Banjo Kazooie was a better game, but the characters, there was comedy involved. Like, that's probably my second favorite Rare game. Number 1's coming up soon though. Next up, we got Mario Kart 64. We can't leave this off the list. This is probably my second most played multiplayer game. As far as, the battle goes and the racing and stuff like that, you can play the single player, multiplayer. What an all-around great, fantastic experience. Put tons and tons of hours into this. The only game I probably played more than Mario Kart 64 was, of course, Goldeneye. This is my favorite game by Rare, by the way. Going back to it today, it is harder to play. Not having a dual analog stick is a bit of a challenge. Again, play with a controller, get used to it, and you'll be totally fine. It's just going to take some of your time to adjust, because the game is friggin' awesome. The soundtrack's great. The story's pretty good. But just the gameplay. At that time when that came out, you have to understand, there was very few shooters that were good on a console. PC was like, oh, well, that's where you play first-person shooters. And then GoldenEye came out and was like, no, you can do this on console also. And that was really the first time people were like, holy shit, you can. I don't even know how many hours I put into that game. I played that game throughout. Like, even after that, when I went to college, I played that game so much. Just yelling and screaming and playing that game till like 3 o'clock in the morning. So many hours of fun playing Bond on 64. Now, the last 2 games here are probably... GoldenEye is right there with them. But these 2 are very special to me. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was the first Zelda game that I really got into. I've messed around with some NES Zelda games and stuff like that. I think at that time I never played the Super Nintendo version. I think I only played the 2 that were on NES. And I was like, yeah, they're fine. But when this came out, I was like, oh man, this looks awesome. I gotta check this out. And instantly fell in love with The Legend of Zelda. Like, what a phenomenal game. The story's great. The worlds at that time were like, when you first walk out in the Hyrule field, it was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is a game. This giant 3D world. There's stuff, different areas to go in and stuff like that. And nowadays it would be quite quaint. It would be like, oh well, it's kind of it's open world kind of, but then you go into like a dungeon and you're just there and like there's corridors and stuff like that. I get that, but that's a game I would go back and still play today and be 100% like all about. Like, what an awesome game. And finally, we have the reason I bought the Nintendo 64, which is Super Mario 64, the best 3D Mario game ever. You all can come at me on Twitter for that. Better than any of the GameCube ones, the Super Mario Sunshine, better than Mario Odyssey. Odyssey was fine. It was a fine game. It was better than Sunshine. Just wasn't better than 64. And that was probably relative to the time, because that blew my mind so much and really made me love the 64. Not much else I had to say about Mario 64. I'm sure you guys have played it. I'm sure you know what's going on with it. So I don't want to take up any more of your time, but these are the reasons why I love 64. It's mostly because of the games, some cool accessories like the Rumble Pack and stuff like that. A lot of nostalgia for the Nintendo 64. I still go back and play it today. What do you guys think? Is the Nintendo 64 your favorite system? Do you hate the 64 like a lot of people do? Don't just tell me you hate it though. Tell me why. Like why don't you like the 64? And it can't be the controller because I already told you to get over that shit. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. Please support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/nerdenthusiast. Follow us over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, of course on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share, all those things. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time. Take care.